Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to a, hurried edition of the Powercat Podcast. We got breaking news. As most of you probably know, this morning, the Manhattan Mercury has reported something we were sharing with our subscribers on Wabash Station last night. It's advanced very quickly. A plan is in place to have Chris Klieman retire as Kansas State's football coach at season's end following the bowl game. And Collin Klein, former Kansas State quarterback, Heisman finalist, offensive coordinator, now the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M, will come back to take over as head coach following that. This has been put together by athletics director Gene Taylor, according to reporting by the Manhattan Mercury, which broke the news this morning. I am Tim Fitzgerald, publisher at Go Powercat. As I said, we've been monitoring this story as it developed yesterday afternoon. It's been a remarkable thing. I've never quite seen anything like it. I'm joined by Big B, Brien Hanley, former Kansas State player on the 97-98 teams, and Ryan Gilbert, looking a little bit like Harry Potter because a piece of magic just got pulled off. Boys, I'm shocked, first of all, this got out this morning. I think this was something they had hoped to be able to put in their pocket. I don't think they were ever going to be successful, by week's end to do that. It was going to come out today. I just think it happened earlier. Of note, K-State was supposed to have a signing day press conference at 11 a.m. and has been moved to 4. Not known if that's related to this or someone else's signing maybe coming later than expected because they'd like to have all those done. Big B, give me your first reaction here upon learning this morning.
Well, I'm like everybody, most people, I should say. I mean, I was shocked to see Coach Klieman retire or step down, we should say. I mean, people are saying retired. We'll see how all that plays out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely shocked to see that, and that Collin Klein was going to be the next head coach. But I quickly pivoted to number one. I don't think, I know a lot of people are thinking, man, these recruits, it's signing day, it's a horrible time. And number one, I give K-State credit because I don't think they're that stupid to do something that would deter recruits from signing today. I think they probably had mentioned this to recruits all along, that this is something that could happen. And so I think that's part of it. But number two, I pivoted even further and said, you know what? This is a good thing. We all been screaming about doing some changes. It's not a good thing that Coach Klieman left. Let me make sure that I'm clear. It's not a good thing there, but it's also a good thing that we had been screaming for some fresh blood, some fresh ideas, some new things to happen to this program. It just needed some invigorating. Well, we're going to get it. We are absolutely going to get it. And I think it's a good day, but two things can be true. It can be a good day and a sad day, Fitz. Is that it's sad that Coach is leaving, but it's also good because we're going to get one of the up-and-coming coaches around. And I think it's a good time because I think K-State, look, there's all these jobs that are opening up and people are turning certain jobs down and the things are moving. And now we got our guy. I think it's a great day for K-State in that regards.
Ryan Gilbert.
You want to know my initial thoughts, guys, is we, and by we, I mean members of the media, fans, the university, nobody has any uncertainty with who's the next head coach going to be. There's no hot boards. It is Collin Klein, right? And that is just, there's just something that's so comforting about that fact that, yeah, this is a guy that not only who it's going to be, but a lot about as a former player as well as a former coach. So this is a wild, wild season in the coaching world with the carousel. Everything's going on. K-State's off of it, right? K-State's got its coach, and we are here in the beginning of December. And I know that Fitz reports are out, right, that Chris Klieman's still going to coach the bowl game, but moving forward, everything's good to go.
Yes. That's the plan as we're hearing it today. I think this got out a little bit earlier than they wanted. But that was inevitable. I mean, trying to sit on news of this magnitude just doesn't work. But Big B, in many ways, the metrics changed because, not long ago, you would not want this out on signing day or anywhere near signing day. But now, I mean, the kids can hit the portal.
Mm-hmm.
If a kid signs today and then says, you know what, I'm the only person on earth who really doesn't like Collin Klein, so I'm going to hit the transfer portal in January. I mean, it's that simple. I'm pretty sure. They've changed so many rules now, it's hard to be sure, but no one's bound to a program. No one is tricked into signing if they don't want to be here in Manhattan long term. They can just hit the portal, which is a good development for college athletes. But as I was hearing the plan last night, it was to introduce Collin on Saturday publicly at the basketball game, probably earlier than that for other things. I'm not sure. The original rumor was Gene Taylor is also retiring. That is not true. Gene is staying on, and he will continue to function as Kansas State's athletics director, certainly doing this and handling the retirement or stepping down of his friend Chris Klieman. What we don't know are the details of the contract. This is not a firing, so he's not probably owed what's in the buyout of his contract. That's good for Kansas State, but it's also a parting of ways that is acceptable to both parties. So now they have to probably negotiate what exactly that buyout will be from the contract and exactly what Collin Klein will be paid. I don't think any of these contract things were in place this morning, but here we are. I didn't think news could move any faster than it has been, but I mean, this thing was pretty much done before any of us knew about it. I have a feeling yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, look, something that moves this fast, sometimes you could say, it got a mind of its own and it just took off. I don't think that was the case. I think this has been in the works for a while. And I think everything just needed to be put in place. Now, the news getting out and how all that happens, again, I'm just under the belief that I don't think maybe not every single recruit, but I think a lot of these recruits were told, hey, guys, there's a strong possibility that coach won't be here, but this is our plan. Or maybe they were just flat out told what the plan was, and guys were like, yeah, I'm on board with it. But it definitely moved fast as far as newsworthy, but I agree with both of you. I think this is the best situation for Kansas State. No speculation, look at Penn State. I mean, look what they're going through right now. I think it's like 52 days and it's signing day, and they're signing no one. Think about that for a second. With all the resources and money that university has, they can't find a coach because they're like, they just can't find one. So I think this was some of K-State's best work. I'll be honest with you. We're critical, and I know I'm critical, and we say things all the time. I think this is some of Kansas State's best work as far as the athletic administration goes, to be able to keep this quiet for so long, do its due diligence behind the scenes, and then get everything done. Whatever the contract is, it is what it is. I mean, Kansas State wouldn't pay him something they can't afford. So there's that. And I think it's going to be great. I think this is a good day for Kansas State football, man.
I agree. I don't think this was ever the plan. Even 2 weeks ago when, Kansas State was coming off a lackluster win at Oklahoma State, getting ready to go to Utah to get their butts kicked. I don't think it was the plan for him to step down at the end of this year. I'm fairly certain the plan was to step down following next season. And then the Utah post-game incident happened. It's not an incident. It all kind of came up and bubbled through Chris Klieman, all the stress, all the everything. And it was an unfortunate public display of stress. And it was at that moment I thought, I think this is it. I think he's going to work through this and realize, why am I doing this? So I think this did change. And probably also, guys, the reality that Collin Klein was not going to be available in a year unless he hopped and skipped somewhere else. There's someone in College Station is saying he was offered this South Florida job and had to turn it down at the last second because this popped up. I'm glad to know Kansas State is better than South Florida in the job market. This all just moved so quickly. Again, people have been down on Gene Taylor, but this old dog knows some tricks, man. Nobody else is pulling this kind of stuff off And believe me, the media here is pretty well plugged in. And congratulations to Ned Seaton on breaking this. He's as plugged in as anyone in the Manhattan market. But yeah, guys, I don't know. Gills, if you want to step in here and talk about kind of the ramifications of this short-term, long-term, just put some words together and then say that's all I got at the end.
Okay, I'll remember that. But
okay, that's a good question.
If you ask Chris Klieman, who do you want to be the next head coach after you, regardless of how you go out in Manhattan, guys, it's Collin Klein. It is absolutely Collin Klein. So to say, I mean, there was any sort of firing here, right? That's not that. So Chris Klieman, this is exactly what you want for the future of the program that you love about and you care about. And, Big B, you're talking about here on signing day. This is not like, regardless of what happened behind the scenes, you're not keeping your kids in the dark, right? I'm sure a good amount of these recruits are probably going to be coached by the same position coach next year, right? Not everybody's going to be back, but not everybody's going to leave, right? Collin Klein knows every single one of these assistants from top to bottom. Maybe not Luke Wells or some of these new guys that just came in, Katzer, right? But other than that, Collin's got familiarity with all these guys. And yeah, if you want to aim higher and compete at the highest level, yes, you're going to need change on your coaching staff. I'm not saying you should just keep all of his assistants, Chris Klieman's assistants. At the same time, though, if you're Collin Klein and you say, hey, I like you, all right, you've got a job here in Manhattan, and there's definitely going to be those guys that Collin have that respect for. So a big part of being a head coach is obviously your X's and O's and schematics, but that can almost come secondary if you're not a good leader of taking charge of things, leading men, being a leader of men. And so that's probably what Fitz I'm most excited for, is to see Collin Klein in his first real opportunity to do that, right? We've seen what he can do in terms of running an offense. Well, now it's time to run a whole team.
Well, it will be interesting to see how he structures this, how much he keeps from the Chris Klieman, shell of how he's done things. I mean, I would imagine retaining guys like Clint Brown, the general manager, and, Taylor Bratt and everyone associated with the recruiting team would be very important and probably something he will do. I think there will be some retirements off this coaching staff. There's always some departures. I think we'll see some changes. We were going to see changes, folks, on this staff. I knew that was coming. And I think maybe Chris Klieman got to the point of, why am I going to fire guys and then retire a year later? I didn't, and let's just do this. But it's fascinating to me now to kind of assess what Collin Klein will do with his coaching staff, Brien Hanley. And I think something a lot of K-Staters want will happen. I think we'll see a rejuvenation of the number of K-State, bred people are going to be on this staff. The ones that played here, or coached here, or been here and understand this place. Not that the previous staff didn't, but I think the family aspect of this and getting back to those ties will be something Collin Klein will just do out of instinct. It's just part of how he was raised as a player and now a coach.
I think so too, and I think that's a good thing. You got to tap into people that understand how the program is built and how the program can function, especially in today's day and age. And there's a lot of those guys out there. There are those guys that are out there. So just be prepared for some of those things to come back around and some of those coaches to be around. Look, I'm not saying that you have to have an entire staff or even mostly staff of guys that played here or coached here. I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you limit yourself to something like that. But to have a few of those guys around, yeah, that's going to make a difference. I could name a few. I don't need to do that right now, that are big-time recruiters, know how to coach, that love this place, that if they get an opportunity, they can come back. I mean, we're going to need some of that. Again, Kansas State is different. It's different than a lot of places out there. And how you get kids to come here and the landscape of things, it's just different. It's a school. Let's just say what it is. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It takes a special type of person to be able to get kids to come to a place like Manhattan. I'm not saying that's like Manhattan's bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's just different, and different is good in my opinion. And there's going to be some of that. I love it. Like I said, I haven't been this fired up for Kansas State in a minute. And I know maybe that's wrong of me, whatever, but I'm just excited about what this can bring because I think the program just needed a breath of fresh air. And like I said, maybe not necessarily from the head coaching position, but now that we're getting that, okay, great. Let's move full steam ahead and let's just see where we can get this thing. Let's see how far this thing can go, Gills and Fitz, and see, let's press the boundaries of stuff here, and let's see what can happen with this program. I think it's a great time. We'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk about roster and all that stuff, but I like what's going on. I'm excited. I really am. I know I'm crazy. Y'all have never seen me this fired up before. I am fired up, man. I am.
Hey,
I saw you talking Cologne in Vegas.
And I've seen Big B at a Louisville basketball game. That was when Big B was on his feet, fired up.
Yeah.
But to your first point, Big B, about bringing back some K-Staters on the coaching staff, I'm a big believer that, hey, part of the struggles for this season where there just weren't enough, true K-Staters on this roster, Austin Moore, Brendan Mott, or DJ Giddens, the overlooked guy who K-State truly, maybe had to develop, and they just epitomize what it means to wear that jersey. And those players were few and far between on this roster, just in this era of the transfer portal. I obviously like to get more of those players back on the roster, but Big B, you mentioned it. If you can get a guy or two like that on your coaching staff, that just resonates throughout the entire locker room that, hey, this is what it means to wear that K-State jersey.
Agreed. Guys, I think our previous parameters to how to build a coaching staff are probably dated.
Yeah.
And, you typically will form a coaching staff by going out and find a bunch of old grizzled veterans and some young guys and, piece them together. I think now what's gone on with recruiting, the transfer portal, NIL, you really have to have a sense of something about you. And I can see Kansas State, Collin Klein looking at former players who may not have been coaches necessarily, but have that DNA. And I can list off a bunch. I'm not going to do it here either, Big B, but a prominent D-back, or a running back or receiver, that might want to step in and try coaching, kind of a mini Coach Prime splash with your assistant coaching staff. Well, I'll be really interested to see where Collin Klein goes with this, because being younger, he doesn't probably have the same tree as a lot of other coaches have. The good news for K-State fans is, much as that tree is connected to the Bill Snyder tree, of course, let's keep in mind that Collin Klein was ironically recruited by Ron Prince, so that goes back to that coaching staff a little bit. No, Ron Prince is not coming back. And we'll see what develops. This probably caught everyone off guard as fast as this was moving. And Big B, this popped up, I don't know, but I don't even know what time. It was yesterday was a blur. 4:00 or so, I started hearing rumblings. It might be earlier than that. And it was like a ridiculous rumor that had gotten feet, and pretty soon, not only was Chris Klieman retiring or stepping aside, Collin Klein was going to be the czar of Russia. I mean, it was just like, how far is this going to go? It gets more and more absurd. And it turned out the absurd version was actually kind of true. The original rumor had Gene retiring, as I've mentioned, and he's not. He's handling all this and will be around. But Big B, I think we're at a point right now in college athletics where Collin Klein has to stop and think, okay, I know how this has been done. I know how to build a staff. I know all those things that I've watched others do, but is it the right way to do it today? Because everything in college football, let alone college athletics, has shifted. What is the right thing to do right now in terms of building a staff that will engage these players to come here, stay here, and give everything they have for this place that Collin Klein loves as much as so many fans?
Well, the one thing about it is he was part of a staff being put together at Texas A&M, and that was 2 years ago. So it wasn't like it was 5 or 10 years ago. So he got to see firsthand, and he was the offensive coordinator. So it's not like he was down the line, of a guy that was brought in. He was one of the first hires that they made after the head coach. So he got to see how that was done. And I'm sure he got to ask and was definitely in on who he wanted to coach underneath him. So you're going to be the offensive coordinator. You can't tell me that they don't have input on a quarterback coach, receivers coach, running backs coach, O-line coach. They may not make the final decision, but they're going to have a little bit of say-so. So I think first of all, it's a great question, Fitz, whatever the hell your name is. And I think it's a great question because for the simple fact is we can't do it like it was done 10 years ago. You just can't. You get left behind if you want to try to run things and build a program like things were done 10 years ago. You can't do that. Hell, I would even venture to say 5 years ago, you can't do it. Things have just changed so much. It's crazy. But either way, I think he's going to do it the way that he knows. And I think the way that he knows is you're going to take a little bit of the old, you're going to take a lot of the new, and you're going to mix it together and say 2025, 2026, this is how you do it. And he's going to get some guys that just can relate to kids. That's it. That's what you have to have. You got to have a bunch of guys that can relate to kids that are going to coach their ass off, coach them hard, hold people accountable, and go from there. I think it's going to be great.
And my word of advice for Collin, because I'm sure he's listening right now, don't be too loyal, right? We've beat this to death with Chris Klieman, and to his credit with what he did with Courtney Messingham, right? But Klieman, I think to a fault, was too loyal at his time in Manhattan. So Collin Klein, if something is not working out, you cannot be afraid to cut ties with a coach that you respect and also a coach that you would consider a friend.
Needless to say, my phone is about to blow up. It's absolutely, I think the development of Bill Snyder's first retirement was the only thing that moved more quickly, but that was before all of this digital age. And I'm just telling you right now, if you guys ever have a big announcement to make, don't tell anyone. Don't tell a person. Don't trust your own mother, because someone tells someone who tells their spouse, who then tells everyone in the world. This thing just absolutely erupted yesterday. And it's amazing that a wild version actually is apparently coming true. Now I'm getting a lot of questions about, kind of the process of this. We don't know. We right. Don't know. We do believe that Chris Klieman is coaching through the bowl game, and Collin Klein will stay with A&M through their playoff run. We believe that to be true.
So an SEC coach is going to stay with his team in a playoff run? What?
Yeah, it's something that not everyone does down there. But it's a new tradition Collin's going to start instead of bailing on your team. This is absolutely incredible, guys. I had someone just tweet at me, and this is so right. We had a rather humorous daily delivery video about our friend Kelly in Vegas, hiring a witch to get rid of whatever is troubling K-State football. And they've asked me, how powerful was this witch that Kelly hired? Because this is a stunning development, and I will be excited, anxious. I don't know what the word is, to see what Chris Klieman's mood is at today's press conference announcing this recruiting class. About 20 or so new recruits are expected. We'll see if everyone ends up signing with this breaking. I imagine they will. I think Big B's right. Probably last night as this got out, they realized, well, we can't manage this, through signing day. Probably started telling people. I've seen one of the expected flips has happened, so it appears to be going as expected. But we'll see where the program ends up immediately following A&M's loss. I don't know when that'll be. I'm not even familiar with the schedule. For some reason, covering K-State, I didn't bother memorizing the playoff schedule this year. Don't know why. I think he'll be here as soon as possible. Man, Collin and Shaylee love this place. Absolutely love it. And I didn't think there was any way, Big B, this could fall together this year. First of all, I didn't think Chris Klieman was going to step down. Yeah, I don't think he was going to. I think everything going on, whether personal or professional, just got to the point where he couldn't manage it anymore.
Yeah.
And the pressure was immense. So as I started to say, I'll be really interested to see what his mood is. I bet you he feels like an enormous burden has been lifted off of his shoulders. But Collin's going to have to put some guys in place to kind of start managing that roster and the team as soon as possible, because he can't pick up in mid-January and expect the portal to be very kind at that point.
No, he's going to have to do that immediately. Like you said, and who knows, again, I'm sure this thing, like you mentioned, I guess it happened super quick, but that would be one of the first things that you do. You start thinking about staff, you start thinking about portal. Who can I get here? What's our budget? What can we do? How do we manage it? Who wants to stay? Who wants to go? Who do we want to stay? Who do we want to go? So all of that stuff has to be rectified in like now. I mean, they got to start doing that right now, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, you sign up for this, you get paid handsomely for this. So this is why you do it, and that's part of the job description nowadays. We don't have to like it, but that's just the way that it is. The schedule and the timing of it is the way that it is. So I think, I'd be honest, granted, we don't know who's going to want to go. We don't know who's going to want to stay. But I would suspect, if I was just a betting guy, I would guess that a lot of the offensive players, including skill position people, may want to stick around with old Collin Klein. I'm just throwing that out there. I would bet that they would want to stick around to be coached by Collin Klein and to do what he wants to do offensively. You just look at what he's done for that offense in Texas A&M, and I mean, that wouldn't be something I would be running away from. That's all I'm saying. That would not be something that I'm wanting to run away from so quickly. Maybe you want to test the waters, I guess. I don't know, but I wouldn't. I would just say, oh, okay, well, this is what maybe I was looking for. I was looking for a different type of offense, looking for something different. Now it's coming to me. Wow, I didn't even have to go anywhere. This is incredible. That's just my perspective as a player. That's a pure player perspective, Fitz and Gills, is that if I was looking for something different as a player, and all of a sudden this very successful thing that I'm looking for is coming to me, I just wouldn't leave. That would be my personal experience.
I agree. Amidst all this noise yesterday, someone hit me up saying they're hearing a certain player was going to hit the portal, and I'm like, it was a significant player. I'm like, I'm not surprised. I do wonder now if they hit the pause button. But that brings us to the next topic, NIL. We know this for sure, and fans got tired of hearing it from Klieman, but I did a very large story a couple weeks ago prior to Utah about Kansas State's standing in the NIL world, and it's not good. I think people have misconstrued Chris Klieman blaming his defeats this season, the team's defeats, on NIL. That's not particularly true. He sees what's ahead, and even maintaining his current roster will be difficult because K-State's that much further behind in NIL right now than some of the bigger programs in the Big Ten and SEC. So, Gills, I would imagine that some level of NIL discussion came up. It has to. It's a part of the reality. What makes this a layered difficulty, though, is the fact that a lot of what we're talking about with the bonus NIL above the revenue share is kind of donor giving. So did you have to have some donors step up and give Gene Taylor assurances that, yeah, we're coming on board with added NIL money, but we're not talking $100K a year. We're talking millions upon millions. Doesn't that have to be done too? Or do you just rely on the enthusiasm of the hire to get that done? Because I don't know if Collin Klein takes the job if he can't get assurances that the NIL budget will be higher than what it was looking at.
Well, let alone what happened with Notre Dame a couple years back, right? Collin Klein, now he's not going to take a job unless he feels like it is the 1,000% right fit.
Right.
And he can be in a position to do what he does best. So obviously, yeah, NIL needs to be better at Kansas State, but in Collin Klein's mind, absolutely, he believes that he can compete for a Big 12 title given what he thinks the resources are going to be here. Because this was not the only interest, right? You mentioned it earlier, Fitz, that Collin Klein had. And I also want to say, someone just broke into my apartment. His name rhymes with Lowell Larmlitty.
Lowell Larmlitty.
Yes.
You know,
he was
Lowell
supposed to be here for
Larmlitty,
a press conference signing day at 11, and that got moved, obviously. So he's stuck in my apartment.
Here's a callback to an earlier incident. Did he go fall asleep in your bed?
He's on my bed, on the end of the bed, laying right now, but he is not passed out on my bed.
It's too much information.
Wow.
Cole, you gotta get on my bed.
Yeah. Behind the scenes news from Go Powercat. Yikes.
What the hell is going on here?
No wonder the press conference got delayed. Guys, this is absolutely stunning. You know, I'm looking at some of my texts I'm receiving because my phone is beginning to smoke. If you've sent me a media request, I've only booked one at this point. So I'll get back to you. But one of our group chats just mentioned fans are getting exactly what they wanted. Now we're going to find out if they were right. Because Big B, the honest truth is, this is Collin Klein's first head coaching job. And until you do it, you're not sure. I can study swimming videos all I want, but you really don't know if you can swim until they throw you in the water. And here we are. He's watched a lot of swimming. He's been preparing to be the swimmer, and now he's head deep. He's underwater right now, getting thrown in. How do you think Collin will do as a head coach?
Well, I think he'll be fine. The thing about it is that he's learned under some pretty good head coaches on how to do this. So he's gotten some tutelage from some guys. And as much as myself and other K-State fans hated to see him leave, he needed to go away. He needed to go see what else was out there and how other programs were being run. And while we don't necessarily like Texas A&M, there is no question that Texas A&M is a big-time program when it comes to facilities and money and how a program is run. Now, the results on the field don't always add up, although they are this year. I go, but there's no doubt that A&M is a first-class organization. Not that Kansas State isn't, but it's different. It's different when you have other things down there. So he got to see something different, you know, and that's a good thing. I sometimes people, he just needed to stay here the whole time. And I'm like, no, it's good to go out and see how other things are done, get others' perspectives and other ideas, and to come back. So I think he's going to be fine as long as he does what Gil's brought up, an outstanding point. You can't be too loyal. You know, being loyal to a fault is a real thing. And we saw that a little bit with Coach Klieman. We saw him do that from time to time. Sometimes, look, and I bring this up all the time, and I know people don't like that, but coaches get paid a lot of money. And some of that is because you got to make tough decisions. And whether a guy's your buddy, not your buddy, if they have to go because they are not what's best for the football program, then you have to go. That would be the one part that he might struggle with, Fitz, because has he ever fired anybody?
Yeah.
Has he ever had to have a tough conversation with a 52-year-old man that's older than him that he's got to bring him in and have a real tough conversation with? I'm not saying he can't, but those are some of the things that come to my mind that you think of that a first-time head coach, especially a younger guy, would have a problem with, is that, hey, you've got this guy that's 54 years old, that he's a coach, he's got a mortgage and a family, and you got to let him go. Well, that's the reality of the business, but how do you handle that, especially if you've never had to do that before? That can be tough. That can be tough.
What's funny about the struggles of this season was the amount of fans that were clamoring for Collin Klein during the lack of effort days of K-State football through the first 4 games of the season. Now, don't get me wrong. All 3 of us are stoked that this hire has been made or is going to be made. But Collin Klein, in that regard, was not the number 1 candidate to be a rah-rah guy and get your guys more energized. So, Big B, to your point, that's a big key, for Collin Klein to – I'm not saying he's got to be an energetic coach every second of every day, but if your team is needing a spark, has Collin Klein ever been, I know as an offensive coordinator, probably a guy to rally your team, but ultimately that falls on a head coach. Everything falls on the head coach. So Kansas State, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows here for Collin in Manhattan. There's going to be adversity. That's what makes or breaks you as a head coach. I mentioned this earlier. It's so much more than just the X's and O's. You are a true leader of men now, right? If you're a head coach, you would be a great CEO of a company or something like that. You're going to have to lead men here, leading a program, which, like you said, he's never done yet. So let's give him a chance, right?
There's so many interesting things here, layers to this. Who will he hire? How will he set up his staff? How many will be K-Staters? Will he still call plays, or is he going to bring someone in to call plays? Because that's obviously his strength as a coach, but calling plays as a head coach, whether offense or defense, is extremely difficult. You got a lot going on, a lot of noise around you. And someone needs to kind of manage that, because if you're thinking about the plays, the clock, and there's just so much going on. If for an offensive coordinator to manage, I will be fascinated to find out exactly who he picks for these and how many are K-Staters and how important that is. But you just think about his pedigree. He played under Bill Snyder. He's coached under Chris Klieman and Bill Snyder, and now Mike Elko. You've had a lot of good stuff poured into you and different styles. We know that Snyder and Klieman were different in some ways. The locker room was managed very similar. I'm not sure. Elko, I think he's a pretty stern hand at the wheel, which is a hard thing to manage now. It's hard to be a player's coach, keep discipline, keep everyone on the same page. But Big B, the honest truth is it's probably a young man's game now, simply because these changes were so sudden and drastic. There was no acclimation period for us olds. I mean, we're just kind of thrown into it. And if you're an older coach, having everything that you've done as a coach disrupted and changed, there's a reason why you ascended to this spot in your career. You love coaching. Oh, but now you got to manage salaries and rosters and do a lot of things that you do at the NFL level. A lot of coaches are like, hell no. And I think Chris Klieman finally realized I can manage this. I can find ways to do this, but it's not good for me. It's just, this isn't good for me. And we've seen him decline over the last 13 months. You can see the visible decline since the late season collapse in 24 through the start of this year. He is tired, he's worn down, and he's emotional. All things that came to the forefront, because this is not the same job he took in 2019. And it won't be the same job for Collin Klein in about 3 years. It's moving that fast.
Yeah, and one thing that you see is a lot of older coaches become a CEO type.
Right.
Like your Kirk Friends from Iowa. They're like a CEO type to where they just run everything. They're not in charge of the offense. They have somebody to do that, and they're not in charge of the defense. They just run it all. And Mac Brown did it forever. I mean, Lord have mercy. He did it forever at North Carolina, then at Texas, then back to North Carolina. He was the CEO, and you can do that. And that works. That works. And I think a lot of older coaches are kind of transitioning to that and letting younger guys get involved. But at the same time, some of the younger guys, you're right, it's young person's game, because things change. Things just change. And either and we've said it a lot, is that either you change with the times or you get out. And I don't blame anybody for getting out, because if it's a job that you signed up for and then it completely changes and it's not what you signed up for, it would be like the mailman. You thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to carry around mail. And then all of a sudden they tell you, no, you're going to be the person that sorts the mail at 3:00 in the morning every day. Well, no, that's I'm not going to do that. I'm going to quit. This is the same thing. It's like, no, you're going to quit. You're going to do something else. And nobody should begrudge you for doing something else. it's where I get sideways at people that constantly complain about it, but then stay in it. I'm like, well, if you don't like it, I get it. We'll quit. And that's my thing. And I think Coach Klieman, I think you're right, Fitz. I think he wore down. He is a football coach. Right. And I think the man just wants to coach football, and you can't do that anymore at this level. I think you probably can at the FCS level, even though people are going to raid your program and that kind of stuff. You can probably get away with it at that level. But at this level, even group of 5, nope. You gotta do more and a lot more. And I would say it's more of the off-field stuff than actual coaching.
Right. And
Coach Klieman he's not that man. And I don't begrudge him for not being that man. If you want to coach football and this is not it, we've seen it. We've seen it in basketball. Other guys just said, nope, I'm out. We've seen it in football. Nick Saban was one. Nick Saban doesn't like it the way things are. You don't think Nick Saban could keep coaching right now? Of course he could. And what is he, like 73? He could be coaching right now if he wanted to. He doesn't like it, and he got out. So I don't begrudge Coach at all. Good for him, because if it's not what he likes, and you're right, Fitz, you could see him. You could just see it. It wore him down. It wore him down, and he's doing the right thing. If this is what he's truly doing, stepping away, which I think that's what he's doing, but I wouldn't begrudge him if he went down a level and decided he wanted to coach again. I wouldn't blame him at all.
This is the Go Powercat podcast. I think we're going to wrap it up here for now. We'll probably be back as we get some more breaking news. Make sure you're subscribing to Go Powercat. We got 50% off right now over there. We'll be on top of this. We were sharing all the details of what we were hearing last night with our subscribers behind the paywall as news continued to evolve. I kept expecting it to calm down, but apparently it spiraled. I think I fell asleep at 2 a.m. Spiraled through this morning, continued to snowball. So we'll be on top of it at Go Powercat. We appreciate you watching. Make sure you go. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say real quick before you wrap up. Obviously, there is no hot board that we can plug for our VIPs, but like you said, 50% off. Cole Carmody will have an assistant coach's hot board that will only be available to the VIPs at Go Powercat. So take advantage. You missed our 75% off sale. 50% off, though. Still not bad.
Very good. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll be back at Go Powercat with more breaking news as it comes up. Of course, signing day is today at 4 p.m. We'll have all that coverage in a recruiting podcast. I assume we'll still do after that with myself and Cole Carmody. But stay tuned to this YouTube channel, the Big 12 Insiders. I'm sure Big B will have stuff over there. For now, that's it from here in the Go Powercat Cats and Dogs studio. We'll talk to you real soon.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.